Hello there. Today I've got a little bit different video for you. I'll be playing through a Mindustry V8 Beta campaign level, and I wanted to show you some of the thought processes that I have as I go through and play one of these levels. This particular level will be a base level where I'm doing an invasion, and there's going to be waves as well as I have to defeat the base. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm starting from the next door neighbor sector here. I'm jumping into a high threat level. I usually like to pick my level 3 production core here. That gives me a pretty good start off and a fair amount of resources to get going. So when I first started this level, I was like, hey, look, there's thorium right here. And the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I get an inflow of resources as well as power to maintain those resource flows and unit construction. You see here I'm producing two air unit factories. I'm running two air unit factories, and I need to get a lot of silicon flowing there. But I also was like, hey, look, there's thorium here. I can get weapons going and power. It took me a second to realize the late waves haven't even started, and here come two enemies. That's what I realized. This one is going to be a little bit tougher. The Mindustry V8 has a lot more enemies that spawn a lot faster. And so it's a definite shift. I'm only playing on normal difficulty, so it's a definite shift from what we're used to, where the enemies did not attack nearly this fast. So here I was like, oh no, they're coming at me again. They just blew up exactly the power buildings that I had, so I need to rebuild that. But as long as I can get some salvos down, I should be okay. Luckily, the salvos setup works pretty good here. I usually do a dual feed here where I can have router junction, and do 2 rows of that, feed in the thorium, and that feeds 8 guns, and that's usually enough to get me started at a pretty good defense. So with those guns now set up, killing the initial units, I've got also one air unit fighter, now 2, that I can use to also combat this northern section. So you can see there on the map there's 2 parts there, but I still haven't quite realized how many enemies there are coming. So if you look in the top left, you see it keeps going up. There's 73 enemies already, and we're only like a minute and a half, maybe 2 into the game. I'm trying to start the game off with a little bit different, because in V8, to be able to get your resources, you can't just say, hey, send resources to the sector. You actually have to create a landing pad and provide water to that landing pad. And so I was like, well, let's go ahead and get that started and get some resources flowing, and be ready in that direction. That's going to require a lot of metaglass, because I need to get the metaglass to do the water, because these landing pads require a lot of water. Okay, so I went ahead and started building a factory there to get some metaglass, and I figured if I can get some silicon and some other things going, I'll be okay to kick this battle off with some resources. Now, over here, I started off my metaglass production, and you'll notice that I forgot to click on that landing pad to send resources to this sector. That was a mistake, where you can't just build it and click the resource. You also have to say send resources to this sector, and it redirects all resources going to another sector to this sector. That was a mistake I made early, and I'm still trying to get into the rhythm there with this V8 beta version here. You'll see that I fixed that here in a second. Now, what I'm doing here is because I'm building lots of units, I realize I need a lot of silicon. This is typically a problem with the way I build, is I like to have lots of units right at the beginning. So I'm building a double silicon production center here, getting some lead, coal, and you'll see here sand in a second, trying to find a good spot to put the sand. And I actually make a mistake. You'll notice here, as I drop this sand, you'll see I need to pull it down, go up and over, and put the sand into my little schematic here. But you'll notice that, all right, I think I'm all set up and connected up to the plastinium conveyor, but I'm not. There's sand and all through the resources flowing, but no silicon is coming out. I got a little distracted by, let's get some more power going, and eventually I'll come back to that. Generally, when I start to run out of silicon, I just stop my production, and you can see I'm starting some of my megas on some mining to get me flowing there. I still have a ton of units coming at the top up here. And luckily, I've got these fighter units to kind of push them back, but we're looking at 108 enemies already. Like, this is one of the craziest levels I've ever played in Mindustry, and again, this is part of the update to the beta for V8 that's coming out. So I said, all right, well, if I've got so many units coming, I probably should drop down another weapons battery here. You can see me rotating it a little bit because this particular weapons battery I have allows you to put down the initial one and then you can copy and mirror it. I'll fix that here in a second once I feed the thorium up to it. But I like this design here because it not only gives you water to every gun, it gives you 2 lines of resources to every gun, and you can quickly scale this by just copying it like I'm doing right there and flipping it. And now you've got 16 guns, really easy, fed with through the same pipes. So all I have to do is put down the drill or the water pumps and good to go, right? Granted, in this case, I wanted to make sure I had a little bit better water cooling, and so I said let's just go with the cryo fluid, and so that's why I'm not actually connecting up that water. You can see pulling over the titanium and getting a little bit of titanium coming back to the base as well. It took me a little second to set that up, position it, rotate it, and then feed in the water. And now I'm getting cryo fluid coming out, and that should be good here in a second. And then I realized, oh no, I was missing water. There's not much titanium coming out. So with that, real quick, I was able to add a little bit of water and good to go in there. You can see that sometimes I don't use pipe to connect my water to my drills. I like to do I just use the water container, and that works a little bit better for me because I don't have to pause and change materials for me. I don't have to change from the pipe to the container. It works just fine. And here you see I finally fixed the problem where I wasn't getting any resources. I was kicking myself being like, really? I don't have any resources coming in this last 2 minutes because of that. And so anyway, now that I've got that fixed, that should be a better situation there. At some point I realized, okay, I need to get some ground troops going here, replace that factory. I like building some of the green ground units. I forget their names. They're a nice combination because they have the shield once you get to level 3, and they can fly, so they can go along with my air troops pretty well, and be ground troops. I like to do a lot of that. You notice here I'm looking at this trying to figure out what's the problem here. Did something jam with my schematic? What's going on? And then I realized, oh, I put that bridge, that water bridge, and it built right in the way of that sand. So again, I wasn't getting any silicon for the first part of the game, and that was kind of frustrating as well, which was kind of scary because I was pretty low on silicon at this point, down at 200. After dropping down those drills just now, I don't have a lot of silicon left. But I went and plopped another factory down real quick so that I can connect that in and get a little bit more power. I dropped a few solar panels right afterwards because I was like, it's nice to have a little bit of backup in case the power goes negative. I can have some independence here and still get silicon while if the power goes down or we're short. Just kind of run that along there and good to go. All right, so now that I've got a little bit of resources coming in, it's not as easy to get resources just importing because you have to build a lot of water production for each of these ginormous landing pads. That's something I don't like about the landing pad. Is the old landing pad? There was no landing pad in the V7. This new landing pad is 4x4, and that's ginormous. It's just annoying that it's that big. Granted, it might have some uses when you start doing schematics, but I think a 3x3 would be plenty. Anyway, all right. So now that I'm getting the resources going, I was like, well, let's move this battle line up forward a little bit, and that's the benefit of having units versus turrets is that you can move the units forward, and they can hold your position while you're building the next turret. Battlements, and so I move it forward a little bit. I try to just copy this, isn't quite fit, but I can fit most of what I need to here. And then I ran out of copper. This is when I realized this landing pad is a problem. You'll see I have some of the megas that are mining, but there's not a lot of copper on this level. Part of it is I covered up some of the copper with my production, but there really wasn't that much to begin with. There was some lead, lots of sand, a little bit of coal, but if you notice, there's no copper. So instead of getting plastanium, which is usually a shortcoming, something I need a lot of, I was like, let's just do copper then, which is usually not something that I have to import. It was a very interesting change in that regard. So trying to rebuild my copper supplies. My titanium is also kind of low. It was a lot harder to get the resources that I needed because of that shortcoming. Here I'm trying to pull up the water to the front lines so that they can fight a little bit faster and I don't have to have too many turrets. And you'll see right there I plug it into the thing I like about this design is I use the water containers as opposed to the pipe along all those units. One, it carries a little bit more. Well, it used to carry a little bit more water. I think a pipe now carries about the same. But they're all connected, so I can really attach my water anywhere to that design. Minus if I put it in the front, I just have to redirect the direction of the bridge. But I really like that design because it's a no-brain design. You just place it and go, right? And so all of my turrets will get water as they go there. Now, the problem I'm running into is that I'm just not getting enough thorium on that front line there, so I go ahead and plop a overdrive projector here to speed up those drills. And I need to pull my gunships up forward a little bit, the zeniths, to be able to take some of the heat while my guns recharge their bullets. And that's a lot of times the problem with Mindustry in general. If when you have a lot of turrets, they run out of bullets faster than they get destroyed, and so that's why I do the double feed, is so that I can store more bullets right next to the guns themselves. And then again, I was realizing I just need to get more resources coming in. I just have to have the metaglass to be able to feed in these these water pumps to be able to feed these landing pads. And again, I ran out of copper real fast there. It was kind of weird I usually never run out of copper, but this level was a shortcoming there. And so with the new landing pads, I'm able to plop down and get a few more bits of copper and some of the things that usually I don't need to import because I have plenty coming. But with none of it being produced, this was a little bit of a challenge. At some point, I have to switch over to thinking about offense, because if you don't attack the computer soon enough, they will start leveling up their units and come at you pretty hard. But with these ground, little green level 3 ground guys, I have enough shield and air units to be able to go a little bit on the offensive and hopefully stem the tide of all these little guys that are constantly draining my guns of bullets. There's 100 and some odd enemies on the wave or on the attack, and it's not even a full wave. So when the wave comes here in a second, see that there's a whole bunch more guys. So after I got my base set up here, I went ahead and said, let's look around and see if I can destroy some of these factories so I don't have to have nearly as many of these. And they've got this new design here where the computer uses a landing pad to get its resources to its factories. Kind of a cool new set of schematics for the computer player. And that's something you'll notice about the Mindustry V8-Beta, is there are a lot more defenses around the core. It used to be you could just build a bunch of zeniths, fly around the outside of the map, and just destroy them because they didn't have very good defenses on their core. Well, now they've increased the anti-air of the core significantly, right? And so that's why I'm bringing along these ground units, because they can, basically take on the ground, the anti-air without having to get hurt. So then coming along here, figured I'd just waltz in to destroy as much of this base as I can, get ready for attacking that production. There really wasn't a lot to defend here, just a couple of the laser cannon guns. Punch through this production here. Notice that there are a couple of these production centers that their doors have been blocked, so that was good for me that it wasn't producing as many guys. But I mean, if it hadn't been doing that, there would be even more. So I think it's just a problem with that particular schematic that's there. I saw it on that other factory up above as well, that their door is blocked by the door to allow the units to walk out is being blocked by some wall. Yeah, I'm running into this problem where I just don't have enough firepower here, so I went ahead and dropped a laser gun down to provide power if there's no bullets around. It's just having a hard time keeping those bullets charged there. But the good thing is that those production centers are not defended, and so I can go ahead and just fly up there and take those. Well, they are defended a little bit, but I'm kind of out of range of most of the enemy guns there. And that's really the beauty of the airships, is that you can fly in and just take out things and stay out of range of the guns pretty easily. I think that's something that in StarCraft 1 they had air units not be very good against attacking ground, like your Wraith and your Mutalisk, that kind of thing. And so those are familiar with that game. Is they knew that the mobility was really powerful, and so they reduced the power of the attacks. Well, in this case, the air units are very powerful and generally can stand up pretty hard against most of the enemy. In this case, you see I'm flying around these little copper guns, and they were doing a lot more damage than I thought they would. But because these units are tier 3, they can take a lot more punishment than those little guns can deal out. But now that I've got my air units and my ground units taking out the both sections there, the top and the bottom, one of the things that you'll notice in V8 is that the ground unit pathing has changed significantly. Instead of taking the shortest path to attack you, they are now attacking the least defended path. And you may have seen that earlier when I put up my guns. They stopped attacking the bottom section and started attacking the top part of top entrance of my base. And so that's a cool bit of programming that they've added to this game. See here, I'm attacking this Spectre from the backside because there's no wall back there. And that's something I think might be good for them to change in future, is put walls around both sides of the enemy things, or the enemy turrets, but that might make it a little bit too powerful. I don't know. I'll have to see what they come up with. But anyway, I like the new schematics and the new base defenses that they're adding already. So we'll see what they come up with, the developers come up with. All right, so again, I'm running out of resources problem, and so I went ahead and just put down one more landing pad. And I guess another benefit is when they designed this landing pad, they made it so that they were really big, so that you can't have tons of them. And maybe that was the design choice, to make them 4x4. I just particularly find it annoying that they're that big, and it does take a lot of water to use it. And I see why they were doing it. They were trying to do it to make it so that you couldn't just do all your production elsewhere on another sector of the game, and you wouldn't have to do any production here. They made it a lot harder to do the import here, and so you really only want to import the stuff that you really need. Alright, so after doing a little bit of work back in my base, I was like, hey, let's go ahead and move forward the unit repair center here so that I have enough to, I can just fight a little easier. I can repair and shoot a little faster. I feel like that gun has a little bit more range than it used to. I forget what it's called. It's the gun that pulls the unit towards it, the air unit towards it. I feel like that range is a lot bigger than it used to be. There are a couple little small things that I didn't see in the patch notes that this game has added. Maybe I just didn't notice it on previous versions of the game, but when they changed it so that the salvo, when you feed it graphite, it increases the range of the gun. That was a cool idea. When I first ran into that, I was confused because I was shooting with my salvos against another set of salvos, and they were outranging me. I was like, what the heck is going on here? Well, it turns out, yeah, they changed. That was a change that I think got introduced by V8. I just don't remember graphite doing that in the previous version. So either I'm crazy or that's a new change that was snuck in from the patch notes. Again, you see how far those tractor beam units were. Those tractor beam guns. Super far range now. Just don't remember it being that far. And alright, so you can see the enemies attacking from the bottom, so I'm trying to clean out this top area, even though they are attacking me from that direction. I want to have control of that area so that I can take these resources, because you can see there's some copper here, which I was really short of. And so if I can get the copper and the titanium, there's a lot of good resources right here. That if I can hold this area with some turrets, I'll be able to do a lot better as far as production goes. This is my large Spectre gun emplacement. You'll see it's very similar to the one I used for the salvo. You can plop down your 8 Spectres and you're pretty good to go. Generally, 8 Spectres take so long to build that I usually only build like some of them. I'll cancel some of the construction so that I can at least have the bridges built in the middle. Because if the bridges aren't built in the middle, it doesn't matter how many guns you have, you don't get any bullets to them and they don't do any good. So quickly got that set up there. What's cool about these I gotta see what the name of these things are. These little green ground guys, they can act like megas and provide support to your unit, so they become pawns. And so I'm actually liking them a lot more. I used to never use them. I just use the megas. but they have the shield. They can fly and be a ground unit, and they can repair and help you. That's super nice. I really like that feature of them. So I started to use them now that the anti-air is so much more powerful than it used to be. But, with those 6 specters set up there, those should be just fine to defend. I don't have any walls set up, and I don't have any... you see I put walls up, and I don't have any liquid in those water containers yet, but I'll get around to doing that pretty soon here. So you can see I'm starting to look at what the enemy base has. And one trick I found is if you just take a tile and pretend to place it, it'll give you a big circle on the map of where you're not allowed to build, and that'll identify not only how many bases there are, but also the distance to the base. Kind of, you can think of the center of that circle is where the base is going to be. So you don't actually have to fly over the enemy base and or pause the game to look at it and see where they are. You can just quickly get an idea. So I'm like, all right, there's not much defending here. Let me go see if I can fly in here and take out some of this defense pieces. Those salvos were a little bit frustrating. I was trying to fly in and destroy their graphite generator, so that I didn't have to destroy the guns. They just run out of bullets. But it took me a couple tries to do that, as the ground units weren't close enough to shoot through those walls. Again, there's just still so many little ground units shooting over there, and I was like, well, if I can put down a Spectre here, I can shoot a lot of those from across the way. I can shift some of the use of my thorium from the back to this new thorium patches that I have here. And that one Spectre can shoot far enough and should be able to take out most of that. Alright, so then going back to the enemy base, you can see that I'm pretty close. There's 2 enemy bases right there with a lot of anti-air around them. And then there's the units as well. I was like, I think I should be able to punch through this pretty quickly. Oh, I'll pause that thought for a second. So you can see there that the units came in through the top because it wasn't defended. I was not used to that, and so they came in and just blew up all those pumps that I just barely built, because I was not used to them picking the weak path to come by like that. It might have been that I also completely sealed off a path. In the old V7, if you sealed off a path, the computer would take that path to attack, or they would not attack that path. And so usually it was good to have a little bit of a crack open so they could come that way. But it seems now that it doesn't just judge it based on whether you have a completely blocked off area. It's based more on, is it highly defended, and they'll pick the lowest defended area. Yeah, with that section guarded there, I've got my troops. I should be able to fly forward. These level 3 ground unit guys are really awesome because they can fly past your defenses and then land. So these quasars is what they're called, it looks like. You can fly past your defenses. You don't have to walk, and they're not nearly as slow going through water. It's just all around a really nice unit. And so fly those guys up over with my Zenith, and with the 2 squads of guys there, should be able to take out the bases real quick. I didn't want to have to fight these guys, these ground troops that are coming through here as part of this, so I figured I'd wait a second and destroy a little bit more of this. Realized there was no enemy base up there, so I didn't really need to go up there. I just lost a few guys for kind of no reason there. But it did give me a little bit more space to maneuver, to fly up and down and back and forth without having to worry about getting pegged by those things. I cleared out those turrets, and then I was like, all right, let's go ahead and recharge the life of these Zeniths, and then I should be able to go take out the enemy. There's not a lot left between their cores and my army, so I figured, let's take a look. Yep, that's just those 2 cores right there. And here I go. What's fun about the Zeniths is you can fly them over the enemy base, and when they die, they are basically bombs. And so I should be able to just go charge in and die over the enemy bases and not have to worry about that causing problems. And blew up those guns there, came in, had my ground units destroy some of the anti-air. That worked okay up until these artillery guns start pounding my units, and so I figured I'd just fly over the base, and as my units die, they would blow up the core from beneath it. See, there it goes. All my units died. All my flying units, my Zeniths, but 1. But I did get the base destroyed. So now I just need to walk over with the remaining quasars and start taking out this second base here. just in time for another wave to show up. Start moving forward. These quasars are all grouped together so powerfully, they just punch through the walls, and boom, they're gone. The sector has been captured. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that real quick, so you can see some of the thought processes that I have as I do my build orders and my defenses and my unit production and unit management and army composition. Granted, this will be very different than when you're playing with multiplayer, obviously, but for the campaign, these are some of the things that work for me. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll catch you next time.